Ever wonder what goes into building a brand that's like instantly recognizable around the world?
Yeah, the ones that are just iconic.
Today we're going behind the scenes at some major brand powerhouses.
Oh, the big leagues? I'm talking about like the NBA, Universal.
You got NBA, Universal, even Cartoon Network. We're going to
Yeah.
unpack the strategies that make them tick.
Love it. So where are we getting these insider secrets?
Our guide for this deep dive is the career of Anthony Mercadante. He's spent over 30 years in brand management.
Wow, 3 decades. That's got to be a treasure trove of experience.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that we have Anthony's actual resume to work with.
Oh, wow. So we're not just talking theory here.
Nope. This is real-world experience from someone who's seen it all.
So we're getting a master class from someone who's not just built brands, but also protected them on a global scale.
Right. But here's the thing. Anthony's story doesn't start with some flashy advertising agency.
Really?
Yeah, it actually begins in the world of, believe it or not, law.
Law. Huh. That's interesting. I wouldn't have pictured that.
Right. But it actually makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah. Protecting a brand, especially a huge one, means you got to be on top of trademarks, copyrights,
Exactly.
all that legal stuff that most people don't even think about.
All the stuff that's like the foundation of a brand's identity.
And that's where Anthony's early career comes in, starting as a paralegal, really digging into the legal details.
He was at AT&T and IHG early on, right?
You got it. Those early years were crucial for him.
So he's like laying the groundwork, getting that legal foundation. But what was he actually doing day to day?
Good question.
His resume mentions things like trademark review and budget management, which, to be honest, sounds kind of, I don't know, dry.
Dry. How so?
Well, for someone who ends up shaping the brand experience at a place like Universal Studios.
I get what you mean. It doesn't exactly scream Hollywood magic, does it?
Right.
But, and hear me out here, those early experiences are like gold. Pure gold.
Okay, convince me.
Imagine being responsible for, say, reviewing advertising copy for a company like IHG.
Lots of hotels, right?
Tons. And every word matters. One wrong word could, like, tank a whole campaign, legally speaking.
Oh, wow. So high stakes, even in those seemingly small details.
Huge stakes. Or managing budgets, you learn firsthand how much those brand decisions actually cost.
That's a side of things you don't often consider.
Right. These might seem like behind-the-scenes tasks.
The unglamorous stuff.
Exactly. But they build a foundation of understanding that you need for brand protection and strategy.
Okay, that makes total sense. Like, you got to learn the rules of the game before you can play it strategically.
Exactly. And sometimes knowing the rules lets you bend them in really creative ways.
I like that. So we've got Anthony mastering the legal side of branding. But then there's a pretty big shift in his career.
Yeah, what's next?
He moves from hospitality into the world of entertainment and sports.
Okay, now we're talking. Tell me more.
Specifically, he spends time at Turner Broadcasting and the NBA.
Whoa! Okay, we went from hotels to Cartoon Network and basketball courts.
That's quite a jump.
Talk about a whole other level of brand management.
Right.
We're talking globally recognized brands with like millions, maybe even billions of fans.
That's a lot of people to keep happy.
You could say that again.
And a lot of potential for someone to, rip off those brands.
Oh, for sure.
How do you even start to protect something as massive as, say, the NBA?
That's the million-dollar question. Think about it. The merchandise, the logos.
The players, their images, everything.
Everything. And it all has to be protected, not just in the U.S., but globally.
That's a massive undertaking.
Massive is an understatement. But it's here, particularly his work on the CIPS committee, where things get really interesting.
CIPS committee. Let's break that down for our listeners. What is that, and what was Anthony's role?
Absolutely. So CIPS stands for Coalition to Advance the Protection of Sports Logos.
Okay, catchy.
It's a group formed by the biggest sports leagues in North America, NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, even the NCAA.
So all the major players are at the table.
Yep. And they work together to fight counterfeit merchandise and protect their IP.
So it's like rivals banding together against a common enemy.
Exactly. They realized they're stronger as a united front. They share information, resources.
Strategies too, I'd imagine.
Oh, definitely. And get this, Anthony was a key player in this whole collaborative effort.
Wow, so he's working alongside people from other leagues.
Exactly.
People he'd normally be up against, strategically.
You got it. And that highlights something really important about brand protection.
What's that?
It's not just about, like, legal battles and cease and desist letters.
There's more to it.
Way more. It's also about building relationships, trust, even with your competitors.
That's fascinating. You'd think it would be cutthroat, but they see the bigger picture.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to work together to protect what's important for everyone.
It's pretty wild to think about those rivalries being put aside to protect the bigger picture.
It's like the old saying, the enemy of my enemy.
Right. But this time, it's about protecting the whole game.
Exactly. And all those skills Anthony developed, the strategy, the leadership, the collaboration, they become even more important in his next move.
Which is, don't leave me hanging.
He goes from protecting brands to shaping the entire brand experience.
Okay, spill the beans. Where does he end up?
One of the biggest names in entertainment.
Yeah.
Universal.
Whoa. From guarding sports logos to, like, creating magic at Universal Studios.
You got it.
Okay, that's a dream job.
Yeah.
But how does his experience protecting brands translate to actually building a brand experience?
Well, think about it. When you go to a Universal theme park, you're not just going on rides, right?
It's more than that.
Way more. You're stepping into a whole world, a universe of stories and characters.
It's all about the immersion, for sure.
Exactly. And every single thing, from the music to what the employees are wearing, adds to that.
So brand assurance at a place like Universal, it's about making sure everything you see and hear fits the brand.
You nailed it. And that's where Anthony's legal background comes in, but in a new way.
How so?
He's not just saying no to things that infringe on the brand. He's actively creating the rules of the brand.
Oh, interesting. So like setting the standards.
Exactly. His resume mentions something called the Global Brand Book for Universal. Think of it like the brand Bible.
So like this is how you do the brand everywhere in the world.
You got it.
Wow. He's not just guarding the brand anymore. He's like the architect of it.
Perfect analogy. And speaking of architects, his resume also mentions creating the style guide for Epic Universe.
Which is
Remind me.
Universal's new theme park in Orlando, the one that's not even open yet.
Right, right. So he's defining the look and feel before they've even, like, poured the concrete.
Exactly. Talk about next level brand building.
That's insane. Okay, one more thing from his resume really jumped out at me.
Hit me with it.
$70,000 brand training videos. $70,000.
Whoa, they're not messing around.
That's a serious investment.
It shows you how seriously they take brand consistency.
So those videos are about more than just don't use the logo wrong.
Way more than that. It's about making sure every single employee understands the brand.
From the top to the bottom. Everyone. They want everyone to be a brand ambassador.
So when you go to Universal, you're getting that same brand experience from everyone you encounter.
Bingo. And that's a really key point here. Building a strong brand isn't just about legal stuff and style guides.
There's a human element to it, too.
100%. It's about the people.
So it sounds like creating that universal magic takes a lot of people working together.
Oh, tons. Creatives, legal teams, the people actually working at the parks.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
You could say that again. It really shows how important collaboration is, which, hey, brings us back to Anthony and what we've learned from his career.
Right. Building a successful brand isn't really a one-person show, is it?
Not even close. More like an orchestra, you know.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
You need all those different instruments playing together to make something truly amazing.
And each section needs to be perfectly in sync.
Exactly. Speaking of which, maybe we should try to harmonize all the insights we've gotten today and give our listeners some key takeaways, you know, stuff they can actually use if they're trying to build their own brands. What do you think?
Totally. So what's the secret sauce? What can people learn from a career like Anthony's?
Well, if we look back at everything he's done, I think the first lesson is pretty clear. Having a strong foundation matters.
Right, like his legal background.
Exactly. You can see how important that legal knowledge is in everything from trademark stuff to those detailed brand guidelines he created.
It's like they say, know the rules before you break them. Right?
Exactly. And sometimes, you know, really knowing the rules lets you be even more creative within them.
I dig it. So, strong foundation, check. What's next?
Next, I'd say the power of teamwork. Throughout his entire career, Anthony's always collaborating. He's working with legal teams, marketing folks, global partners.
It really does take a village, doesn't it?
It really does. And, you know, something else stands out to me in Anthony's career. It spans across, like, totally different industries. He goes from hotels to cartoons to basketball to theme parks. That's pretty incredible.
That's super adaptable for sure.
Yeah.
That's got to be important for brand building today, right?
Oh, absolutely. Things change so fast now.
Yeah.
And that brings us to, I think, the final big lesson from Anthony Mercadante. Never stop learning.
I love that. So master the basics, build your network, and always be learning. Those are some pretty solid takeaways.
For sure. And I think they apply to more than just branding, don't you?
Totally. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your take on something. We've talked about Anthony's career spanning over 30 years. That's a long time.
It really is.
What would you say is the biggest way branding itself has changed in those 3 decades?
That's a great question. I think the internet and all things digital have changed, well, everything. It used to be enough to have a catchy slogan and a logo people remembered.
Right, but now it's a whole different ballgame.
Totally. Brands have to know how to build online communities, how to talk to their audience directly.
And they have to keep up with all the new platforms and trends that are constantly popping up.
Constantly. It's definitely a challenge, but honestly, I think it makes brand building more exciting too.
More room for creativity and innovation.
Right. So yeah, it's a challenge for sure, but the possibilities are pretty much endless if you're willing to put in the work.
Love that positive spin. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the career of Anthony Mercadante.
It's been fun.
We hope you learned some new stuff about the world of branding, from the legal stuff to the importance of collaboration.
And most importantly, never stop learning.
Couldn't agree more. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a career that matters.